Hi, this is Demi Flores, and I'm going to be talking about my photographer Diane Arbus. And so, beginning with, she was born on March 14th, 1923, and died July 26th, 1971. So, a quote by her, I really believe there are things nobody would see if I didn't photograph them. I believe this is really powerful when it comes to her talking about her because, like, she took photographs of people that usually wouldn't be photographed or people wouldn't see them as photograph worthy, I guess. And so she really went out of her way to capture the unusual. And so she was raised in a fashion. No, she was born into a very wealthy Jewish family. Her parents owned a fur store and thus got Diane's parents into fashion. She had two siblings and felt very outcasted from the rest of her family. Growing up, she was very artistic and painted throughout her high school years. When she was about 13 years of age, she met her husband, Alan Arbus. Together, they worked in the fashion industry. Him taking the photos and Diane as the stylist slash art director. She got her first camera from Alan, and since after getting one of her photos presented in Family of Man exhibition, she decided to leave the fashion world and did photography full time. In 1959, she and Alan separated, and later Alan remarried to his assistant. She took a class with Lisette Model, who helped Diane as a photographer. At age 48, she died by suicide after dealing with depression for so long. So, for her photographic career, in 1959, one of her photos was shown in Family of Man, an exhibition created by Edward Steichen, which sparked her interest in photography as an art rather than for fashion catalogs. In early 1960s, her commercial portraits were published in magazines like Esquire's and Harper Bazaar. Her portraits were of strange and unusual looking people, and they were always centered and staring straight into the camera. She also shot in a square format and used flash to create surreal look. So, how the teacher was telling us today about that photographer that I can't remember, um, he she used like flash during like the day, and so he kind of made like a like a like an effect to it so that it looks like it's like Photoshop kind of. And she grew relationships with her subjects and followed them around to capture them in their most natural state. In 1969, Skowski, can say his name, included some of Diane's work in new documents that features other photographers, Lee Friedlander and Gary Winogrand. Winogrand. Many who study Diane's photos see the emotion she puts in each of her photos. In a sense, she took photos of weird things because she herself felt that way, even though she looked completely normal to society. She then saw the beauty in these people. She hoped to numb her pain by taking these kinds of photos. Some could say that some of her work can be seen as trying to ridicule these people with mental disorders, but the way she captures them leaves no doubt that she really captured their underlying beauty. She was just a very troubled woman. Um, in a movie that I saw about her life, named Ferb, um, she was just seen as like an outcast basically, and she did things differently than other people and really uh like things outside the box, and to like other people they kind of saw her as like, you're not normal, like I don't know. But I mean, a lot of artists that are truly talented are that way. So, I mean, I guess it works. Okay, so following with the first photo is called Tattooed Man in a Carnival. A lot of her photos were just like in like random places, I guess. Like she would travel around New York and just walk down the street. Oh, this is one of her most famous ones. Child with toy hand grenade in Central Park. So this little boy was just walking around and she took multiple photos of him. And the only one that he didn't smile in was this one, so of course she picked this one. Identical twins. This one is on the cover of her collection of a book that of collection of her photos later on I'm going to talk about in my slides. And then a lot of these photos are in that collection actually. I'm just not sure which ones. Girl in her circus costume. Again, this one's taken at a circus, just like that tattooed man. Albino sword swallower and her sister. As you can see, a lot of these people are like not your average people that you see every day. Lady in a rooming house parlor. She would go to a lot of people's houses and just like chill there and just like, you know, I mean, that's how personal she got with her subjects. Masked Man in White, New York City. She didn't really care about making her subjects look pretty. She would just want to capture the truth, you know. She wouldn't make them like she's not about that making her subjects look pretty. Two girls on the beach, Coney Island, New York. Yeah, she definitely doesn't look pretty, as you can see. Her face is kind of like, what are you doing? Three circus ballerinas. Up. Audience with projection booth. Yeah, a lot of her photos are just like portraits of like odd and unusual people, but every now and then she got a little fancy and creative. A house on a hill. A young family in Brooklyn going for a Sunday outing, New York. Very odd. The king and queen of a senior citizen stands. I really like this photo just because it's like kind of funny. Okay, Madame Alex Gray. I feel like that's a man, but I don't want to insult the lady if she is a lady. Okay, moving on. Okay, so this is the book that I found. This is just a picture that I found like online, but I mean, yeah. So this book was called Diane Arbus, an Aperture Monograph. This book was a collection of photos put together by John Skowronski after Diane's death. It was hard for Skowronski to find someone willing to print the book because some of the photos weren't accepted at the time, but Michael E. Hoffman agreed to print the book. This book really put her name out there and made her reputation big. What a shame that it happened after her death. Yeah, most artists get famous after they die, which really bites. I mean, at least she didn't work hard for nothing, right? At least she will be remembered for a long time. That's one of my goals, I guess. The photo cover of this book is two girls in identical raincoats. Okay. So, her significance to the photography world. She is very well known for being part of the New Documents exhibition, along with Freelander and Wine and Grand. Aside from that, she has a lot of good techniques that photographers have learned. She loved to venture out into the city and not stay in one place. She would go to places that were unexplored and not a typical setting for a photo. Places like people's home, underground bars, and basements. She also shows in her photos that not all the subjects are going to come out looking their best. The main point to the photo is to get that message through and not worry how pretty the subject might look. To be creative and view things through a different mindset is a key for Diane. She would change the subject sometimes to make them look not as would an ordinary person would see them, but something more different. And a main thing about Diane that most photographers didn't do was getting to know the subject and to build relationships with them. She felt it was better and even more comfortable for both her and her subject if they knew each other a little more. The subject, in effect, won't be so robotic and awkward and would be themselves in front of the camera. I mean, that makes sense, right? Because, like, you wouldn't want some random stranger coming into your house and taking pictures of you doing your thing. It's kind of awkward. So, I mean, yeah. And that is it for Diane Arbus. And honestly, she has grown to be one of my favorites photographers because she's just different from others and doesn't care and doesn't stick to the normal, I guess. So that's pretty cool. So that is it.